Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 22nd of June 2014. We had our summer solstice last night, the longest day. And I didn't go anywhere. I didn't climb a mountain to have a look at that or anything like that. Did you do anything like that, Steve?
Yeah, I climbed a mountain. No, I didn't. Look at the state of me. No. No, I was just thinking about that, actually. It's the longest day of the year. So, someone said to me before that after the longest day, each day is shorter by approximately 2 minutes. And I was just thinking, my young lad hasn't got a school, so he hasn't got a summer holidays yet, and already, we've passed the longest day, so.
Yeah, it's going to start getting dark after yesterday, yeah. Right, our guest on tonight, for some people, probably remembered him as John Anthony Hill, now known as Jah or Mudeeb. And we're going to be catching up on Jah in a few minutes. Basically, the last time we had him on, he was under house arrest regarding the 7/7 Ripple Effect DVD that he sent to a judge in the UK. It's a long story. So we'll get into that, and we'll get an update from Jah, and then we'll take it from there, and we'll move on, and we'll talk about other things that's going on in his life. But so that'll be in a few minutes' time. But for the time being, we'd like to congratulate Vin. I believe he's not going to be on tonight. He's on his 21st wedding anniversary today, so he won't be on the radio. Our condolences as well. we know what that feels like.
No. In all sincerity, congratulations, Vin, and to Mrs. Vin. I'm not sure of Vin's wife's name, but
Mrs. Vin.
Well, congratulations, Vin and Mrs. Vin. Yeah, I mean, 21 years. It's commendable. It really is. Considering that Vin, like, he does the shows and he's involved a lot in helping other people, and he still finds time for his wife. Fair play.
Yeah, and he has 4 kids.
And he does, yeah.
Yeah, so he's kept very busy his end. So congrats, Vin. Have a good time tonight there. Have a good bit of fun. Right, okay. You're going to tell us about chemtrails.
No, I think Mary's going to tell us about the communication channels first.
Yeah. Let's get Mary
she's
to
waiting
tell us.
there, she's waiting with her coat and all ready to go home.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. Off you go. 046 927 1212 is the number for your calls this evening. If you're going to ring in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 469 271212. We also have the OYM radio chat room open as well. I want to say hi to everyone that's in there. And if you want to join the fun, you can log on to oymradio.com and look at the left-hand side of your screen for the live chat button. You can log in there with your real name or a make-uppy one or a pseudonym, and you can join in the chat. And you can also pose questions there for our guest this evening. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. Okay, we got some information during the week from one of our listeners, Patrick. Thanks for that. Regarding a mythological spirit of the air called a Sylph, and Steve's going to tell us about that.
Yes, it appears I am. We drew straws. The Sylph, also called the Sylphid, is a mythological spirit of the air. The term originates in Paracelsus, who describes sylphs as invisible beings of the air, his elementals of air. There is no known substantial mythos associated with them.
Now, apparently these sylphs are, basically, to put it very basically, they eat up or take up the chemtrails that are laid down by these aircrafts. Now, again, if you're talking about elementals, that's a program on its own. But basically, we only heard about it because Patrick, our listener, told us about it, and we've never heard about this before. So if anybody knows about these or has any footage or video footage or pictures, by all means send them in to us. We'd be interested to find out, is this true? Is that right? Do they exist? Is this what happens? I mean, we haven't heard about them, so we'd be interested to find out about them. So if you have any information, by all means, let us know. We'd be interested in having a look at them. There was a lot of chemtrails this morning. Loads of chemtrails being put down this morning because there's a clear sky. And it always seems to be exactly where the sun is. It always seems to be. You all see it, well, when I see them, They all seem to be spraying exactly where the sun is shining, as if they're trying to hide something. Strange
They
enough.
are, the sun.
Yeah.
You know, the gas thing is, and I think I may have mentioned this to you previously, but there's a few people that I work with, and, you know, I plant seeds, as I say. I'm not a gardener, but I do plant seeds from time to time in people's minds, and sometimes they do come to fruition, sometimes they don't, because, you know, closed minds. But I have mentioned on previous occasions to certain individuals that I work with about the chemtrails, and the usual, you know, you're dismissed as the local, or not the local, but the job conspiracy theorist, you know. And I laugh it off, going, yeah. Oh, do your research, wait, you'll find out. But yeah, it's last week there was a lot of spraying going on as well up where we are in Dublin, near Blanchardstown, and just happened to be out the back with one of these people. They were out there having a smoke, and there was some spraying going on. And again, we did have some nice weather last week. I think they said last Wednesday was supposed to be the hottest day, but this wasn't Wednesday. I believe this would have been last Tuesday when this happened. And the spraying was going on, and the person in question looked at me and said, why do all the planes keep flying past right where the sun is? I mean, we're trying to, you know, enjoy the sunshine, but they're flying right past the sun and all that condensation. And I went, yeah, that's mad, isn't it? Because there's no way there's chemicals. There's no way they're chemtrails. And again, I got the kind of, don't you start, look, you know, and I said, oh, I'm saying nothing. But yeah, I mean, even those people who are closed-minded and, you know, as I would term, asleep, even they're starting to notice as well. And as Alan did say, down here this morning where we are, the amount of spraying going on was unreal. And as I said to Alan before we came on, I was out the back of my son, and we were just throwing a ball about. My son said to me, Daddy, is that one of those chemtrails? But I said, how can you see that from where you are? He said, because it's right above your head. And it was only when I turned around, there was one right in front of me going from right to left, and then there was another one right above my head going left to right. So we watched them for a while, got out the video camera, recorded a few of them, and I mean, this was kind of going to be some of my week stuff. You know, how do you explain to a 7-year-old what a chemtrail is? You know, how do you say, well, this is what they're made of, and this is kind of the agenda behind them? Because a lot of kids would tend to worry, and that would play in their mind. So, you know, what do you say to young kids?
You'd have to be careful. Yeah. At that young day, you'd have to be careful, you know.
Yeah.
But they would get it. If you told them the information, they would get it. It's just he's a bit young yet, I think, to be.
I agree.
You know, to be understanding it. But maybe when he's a bit older.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how's your week?
I'm glad you asked. No, my week's fine. I've been just catching up on some. It seems every week I say I'm catching up on some YouTube, you know, stuff and videos and that. I do a lot more. I do other stuff at home as well. I'm not always in front of the computer, although it may seem that way from, well, my wife seems to think it's that way anyway. But the less said about that, the better. I'd rather be sat in front of the computer learning something and educating my mind rather than sitting in front of the television.
That's for sure.
That's for sure, yeah. I'll say no more about that either. Yeah, no, so the chemtrails, I was going to talk about that. You know, how do you explain to a child what it is? And obviously the answer is you don't. You just say to him, which is what I said to him today. I said, look, you don't need to worry about that. Daddy is involved with trying to help these people stop spraying. You know, I said you don't need to worry about it, and he was happy enough with that. What else is happening? The Irish water are still under attack. Anyone who's been listening to the show regular will know that we are getting water meters here in the Republic of Ireland, and there are protest groups popping up all over the place en masse. People are really starting to wake up to this. As we said before, the property tax we thought would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't. The property or the water charge, that is the straw that broke the camel's back. There's a lot more videos and groups popping up on Facebook. There's actually small little splinter groups. They're all meeting up, doing their own thing in the local communities. And there is a big meeting planned for the city centre on the 20th of, I believe, September, where all the groups are going to meet together, hopefully, and we're going to make our feelings known. Personally speaking, everyone knows how Alan and I kind of feel about these big protests. I don't think it's going to accomplish anything really. I think, you know, standing outside your own door on your own patch and standing over the shore and not letting them install, I think that's far more productive, because let's be honest about it. If everyone's going to be in a mass protest in Dublin on the 20th Well, then I could see the Irish water workers. They'll be on double time that day. They'll be out on every street corner, in every corner of the country or the counties, whatever, installing meters because they know all the protesters are going to be in Dublin. Double time, lads, or time and a half. You can kind of see it happening. So there's that going on. What else did I see? I seen something there during the week. I heard something during the week. I don't know how true this is, and I don't know how it would affect.
So you just on the water meter thing. Did you see the thing that Vin posted up on? He did a YouTube or an article saying that the Irish Water do not want people to bring them to court because they know that it's a flawed. There's no contract. So basically, this is why they're threatening the whole revenue thing, and revenue just will take the money because they don't want anybody to go to court with it because they know they lose because it's not a valid contract.
Well, hang on, again, going back, I mean, the whole tax thing with the property tax, I could understand them getting revenue involved there, take it at source, but this is you're supposed to be getting the bill, so is it this old chestnut again, we're going to send you a bill, if you don't pay the bill, we're going to take it from source, we're going to take it out of your wages or your benefits or something. So I didn't realise they were threatening with revenue again.
Yeah.
Are they?
Well, yeah. It looks that way, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. We have to try and get them into court, basically.
Absolutely.
Sorry, there's something else you're going to say there.
Yeah, did you hear during the week that YouTube are proposing a subscription service?
Well, we talked about the internet too.
We did, yeah.
And the internet too is basically a subscription service like Sky TV. And not only would you need to subscribe to the internet, but if you wanted to set up your own website, basically you would have to get permission, like a license from your local county council. It's all part of the Agenda 21.
So we've got no chance.
So if you want to set up an alternative media website, then you'd have to get permission, and they'd have to approve it. A bit like, I suppose, if you wanted to set up a radio station and you went to the communication regulator and said, yeah, we're going to be exposing everything that the government's doing, straight away and they go, you're not getting no license. So it would be kind of the same thing with the website, with the internet too, where you would be allowed to access certain websites, all the New World Order websites, and all the ones that you generally see, like the ones that will tell you all the lies, and no alternative websites. And if you want to set up your own website now, I don't know how far down the road we are with this, but I know there's ISPs fighting this as well and saying, no, that's restricting freedom of speech, you can't do that. But this is what they're planning to do, and this is, just type in Internet 2 on Google or whatever, and do some research on it. But this is kind of the plan of attack.
Yeah, but I mean, do you reckon maybe YouTube are going to kind of be a pioneer and they're going to do it first and see, kind of, test the waters and see what happens?
Well, look, if YouTube become a subscription service, we just stop using them and just go on and use somebody else and set up everything's going open source these days. And to be honest with you, it doesn't take that much to actually set up a website where you can have content managed, a CMS, content management system, where you can put your own YouTube videos and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to do, or put up your own videos. You don't even have to have YouTube. You can set up your own service and do it. Okay, it'll take a little bit of work, but it can be done. It's not, impossible. So I don't want people thinking that if YouTube go and do that and you have to pay for a subscription service that we've lost all them videos. We can set up an alternative service. There's ways and means of doing it anyway.
There is. As you said yourself, sure, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, when you know what you're doing. Yeah, to the regular man in the street, it will be an absolute nightmare. Don't believe a word he says, folks. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm not really nothing much to report. If I think of anything else during the show, sure, I'll just jump in and throw it into the mix there. But how was your week?
Nothing really much. Just a couple of things I'm just going to report on. There was a photo I seen that was posted up on Facebook. I don't know how, you can do a lot with Photoshop, but this looked pretty much genuine from what I could see. I'm familiar with Photoshop, and this looked genuine, but then again, you know yourself, there are professionals out there that can make it look really good. But apparently there was a picture of Barack Obama with a T-shirt, and he had his arm around this young guy as if there's kind of a photo opportunity, a casual photo opportunity. But on his T-shirt, it had AC 2012, and it had a picture of Aleister Crowley. Now, for some people who don't know who Aleister Crowley is, they just probably think, oh, he's probably some person in history or some historian or something like that.
Rockstar maybe.
Rockstar maybe. But if for people who do know Aleister Crowley, he was a full-time satanic and occultist in the early 1900s, and he used to socialize with the royalty and all the stars in the time. And his famous quote was that he wanted to dance with the devil. So why does Barack Obama wear a T-shirt with Aleister Crowley on it, AC 2012? Very strange, very strange. If it's Photoshopped, then fair enough, but if it's real, that's even more worrying as to why you would have that on. So pretty strange. The other thing is that we had Piers Corbin on from Weather Watch, and Piers has put us on his mailing list, and he just sent us a report in there today, funny enough, and he just warns of floods, storms, tornadoes in Europe this summer and autumn, extremes in southeast and USA, confirms major red solar weather. So there seems to be that coming into the summer, into autumn, we're in for some bad weather, floods, storms, tornadoes. We've already had quite a lot of that already. So
tell him thanks for that, will you?
Yeah, no worries.
Just ruined me summer.
Enjoy the summer because it's going to be bad. So
enjoy the summer. It's going to be your last.
Exactly. So I was just curious. He sent in the email, and as I say, his predictions. When he was on the show, he said his predictions were about 80% accurate. So we'll just see what happens anyway. But I just thought I'd throw that in there to let people know, and we'll see what happens. Right, okay, we're going to get a guest on. Now, the last couple of weeks we've been saying to you about downloading a book called The Way Home or Face the Fire, which is on thewayhomeorfacethefire.net. You can download it as a free PDF from Jah. And I was recommending, and Jah recommended that people read it before he came on the show, so people have an idea what we probably will be talking about, and things in the book that we might be talking about as well. But what I want to do is Jah was on the show, John Anthony Hill was on the show when he was under house arrest because of what happened. So I just want to kind of fast forward, I just want to catch up with what happened for people who don't know John. And as I say, he has changed his name, so we will be calling him Jah. But for people who know him before that, it was John Anthony Hill. And we're just going to play catch up as to what happened with the DVD and why it happened, and then from there we'll move on and find out exactly why the name change and what's been going on in Jah's life. So without further ado, we'll bring him in. Good evening, Jah. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad, thank you. How are you, Alan?
Not too bad at all. Thanks a lot for coming on. Much appreciated. We did meet up during the week, and we had a great chat and a coffee, and we were talking about all kind of things, very open-minded stuff. And again, I enjoyed the conversation, great conversation about the stuff that we were talking about. And I got a hard copy of your book, because reading the computer screen for me, I'd prefer to sit out in the sun and read the book. Now, I have managed to read about 3/4 of the book, and I'm looking forward to reading the last bit and what's in the book. But I got 3/4 through of it anyway, so I'm sure I'm going to have, pretty much I'm going to have a few questions based on, what's in the book. But before we do that, what I want to do, Jah, is to give people an update for people who don't know you and what happened. Then what we want to do is take it from, basically what happened. You're an English man living over here in County Meath, and basically you put a DVD together called 7/7 Ripple Effect, which is very good. Got to do with the 7/7 bombings in London. And you can tell us all about this, basically something in the law that says that if you have any evidence related to a crime, it's your duty to report it. So what you did is you sent the DVD over to the judge to show him the evidence that you put together regarding the 7/7 bombings. And then what they ended up doing, and you can fill in the blanks, basically what they did is they ended up putting you under house arrest, and then they extradited you to London because they wanted to lock you up. I mean, it sounds like madness, but this is what happened. But you just expand on what I just said there, if you can, John.
Okay. Well, shall I start from the beginning? Because there's probably people who are listening who don't know anything about it.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
All right. So it started off with 9/11 and watching that happen, and watching the two towers come down in America. It was obvious to me, watching right from the day of 9/11, that the aeroplanes did not bring down the towers, that they were brought down by controlled demolition. And then looking at all the evidence afterwards on the internet, on the alternative media, it just proved what I intuitively knew on the day of 9/11, that it was, they were brought down by controlled demolition. And people argue about, how exactly it was done and what was used. But nobody argues against the fact that they were actually brought down by controlled demolition.
Well, would you say, again, there is an argument there, because the likes of Dr. Judy Woods would say energy weapons. So I think if we can say, to generalize, that they were brought down and they weren't brought down naturally, I think we can accept that.
Okay, well, I would just expand on that, because it's come out recently from Russian intelligence via Gordon Duff of Veterans Today, who works with Jim Fetzer, that they use mini nukes in the basements. But I'm of the opinion, there was also the fact that people said that it was nanothermite and other things. But I'm of the opinion that it's quite possible, if not probable, that all of these methods were used.
Yeah. Well, that's a possibility.
They would want to throw absolutely everything they had got at it to make sure that whatever happened, the buildings came down.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough.
They want to fail, So whatever they'd got, they'd probably use conventional explosives, cutter charges on the girders, which can be seen in some of the pictures. It shows you cutter charges where the girders were cut at 45 degrees, and they were cut into convenient lengths that would all fit on the back of a truck. Okay, so that's one thing. Then there are people from the beginning who said that seismic activity showed that there were nuclear explosions. And then years later now, just recently, they've come out with, say, from Russian intelligence agencies, saying that mini nukes were used in them. And then, of course, you've got Dr. Judy Wood, and I'm not against, what she said. It's quite possible that they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at it. Because once it started, they would be absolutely terrified that it would fail.
Yeah.
So they would, they'd throw everything, belt and braces, if you like, kind of thing.
Mm.
So I don't want to get into arguments about that. We know that they didn't come down from the aeroplanes.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So anyway, then later on, of course, 7/7 happened in London. And I was sitting where I'm sitting now. And I got a message from a friend in London who said, do you know what's happening in London? And I said, no. So they said, well, you better turn your TV on. And I did have a TV. I don't have one now, but I did at the time. And I said, why? What's going on? He said, oh, there's been some terrorist attacks in London. So I put the TV on and started watching what was happening and flipping channels from one to the other, UK stations and Irish stations, to get the maximum amount of coverage, maximum amount of evidence that I could, because different reporters from different stations in different locations, they all have a different viewpoint. And I know that it's only in the early stages that you get the real news, because very quickly then the news starts to be managed and censored and all of that. So that's what I was doing. And it was obvious to me when I saw Peter Power come on the television and say they were running a training drill with exactly the same scenario, then I knew absolutely certainly that it was a false flag, because that's what they do. They run a training drill and then it goes live, so that if anybody's not in the loop and doesn't know, and they catch somebody that's involved in it, they can say, "Oh, I'm just taking part in the training drill," and get away with it.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it, and they did that on 9/11 as well, of course. And so anyway, I started then looking into it, and because we've been looking into 9/11 for quite some time, I started looking into it and seeing different things on the internet and in the mainstream media, different reports, and started putting it all together. And then at one point, a friend of mine said, had I seen a film called 9/11 Ripple Effect? And I said no. So they sent me a link, and it was free to watch online. And so I watched the film, and I was so impressed with it because there was no hype. It was just factual, very calmly presented, which, it showed some of the things about the girders being cut and about the airplanes, this, that, and the other, which effectively proved that 9/11 was an inside job. And I was so impressed with it that I said to my friends who I had been researching 7/7 with, has anybody made a similar film about 7/7? And they said, well, no, there's a couple of films out there, but there isn't one sort of like the 9/11. So I said, well, in that case, I think we ought to make one. And so then I set about writing a script for it. We've been investigating it for a couple of years, and so we got quite a lot of evidence. And I'd looked up and done some research and found facts and evidence that nobody else had found about the bus route and things like that. And so I wrote the script, and then we started making the film. And once I'd finished it, we put it up on the internet. And it had been up there for about 6 months. So it was in the public domain. There was nothing secret about it.
Yeah.
And I found out that they had put 3 friends of the alleged 4 suicide bombers on trial. And they charged them with doing hostile reconnaissance for the original 4 that the government had incriminated by media, really. They've been put on trial by the mainstream media, which is government controlled. And of course, they'd never had a trial, but it went from, they were suspected to then they were alleged, and then it moves very quickly. It moves to, oh, well, they were guilty, But there was never any trial, there was never anything to prove that they actually did it. And of course, we have in UK law, and presumably in Ireland as well, and in America, presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
Well, we'd like to think that, wouldn't we?
We would, but you and I both know that that's not the case. But that's what we're sold, the lie that we're sold, along with all the other lies.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was of the opinion at that point, because my film had become very, very, very popular all over the world. I'd had people contact me from different countries asking me if I would give them permission to translate it into their languages. And of course I gave them permission, and it was translated into Spanish, Italian, German, and I think Norwegian. I'm not sure. I think there are 4 other languages included on top of English. And what I suspected had happened was that because it was so popular, and that everybody with an open mind who watches it knows that that's the truth, that that's what really did happen, and the government knew that. So I think that the government got the wind up because of the film, and so they accused these 3 young men, these friends of the original 4, of doing hostile reconnaissance, and they were desperate to convict them in court. So that they could say, look, we've convicted, these 3 have been found guilty, so by extension, the original 4 must have been guilty as well, and 7/7 Ripple Effect, Muad'Dib's film, must be wrong. And so I felt obliged to send the information, to send the DVD. That's all I sent. There was no, nothing trying to persuade anybody. Just I sent the DVD because that in itself had all the evidence that the 4 original people who were accused and who were dead and unable to defend themselves, but it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were innocent and they were patsied and they were set up and they were killed.
Do you remember the law that states that if you know something about a crime, you're obliged to?
Yes, absolutely. Because I used that in my trial to explain to the jury that what I did was perfectly, and I mean perfectly, lawful.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's called an amicus curiae brief. Okay. Amicus curiae is Latin, it means friend of the court.
Okay.
A friend of the court brief. Okay, so the law it states that anyone who is not a party to a trial but has information that they believe is pertinent to that trial can send it to the court as a friend of the court. And that's exactly what I did with the DVD.
Okay.
And because I could see what was happening. What made it worse was the fact that it was reported in the media that the judge, when he was doing jury selection, they had 25 people, out of whom they select 12 for the jury. And during jury selection, the judge, who was called Gross, Judge Gross, did something that was absolutely outrageous. He said to the jury, of course you know that these 4 young men committed this offence. The bombings. And for him to say that when they have never been put on trial, they have the presumption of innocence, there was no proof, they had not been proven to have done this. In fact, my film proved beyond a doubt that they didn't do it. For him to say that, already poisoning the prospective jurors' minds, telling them that those 4 were guilty when they weren't, was outrageous. And then on the first day of these 3 young men's trial, the prosecuting barrister, Neil Flewitt, QC, said to the jury, there is no doubt that Mohammed Siddiqui Khan, Shehzad Tanweer, Jermaine Lindsay and Hasib Hussain carried out these bombings. No doubt. My film proves that they didn't do it. It was absolutely outrageous what they did. Because, first of all, the judges poisoned their minds, and then the prosecutor is lying, committing perjury. He's lying, saying there's no doubt. Of course there's doubt. Millions of people around the world doubted it, and still do, and even more today than they did then. So I felt compelled at that point to put the records straight, and I sent copies of my film, of the DVD, to the court building. Okay, I didn't stalk anybody. I didn't go and try and nobble any jurors or anything. I was here in Ireland. I just sent copies of the film to the courthouse, one for the judge and some copies for the jury of the foreman, because I wanted them to have the truth as an amicus curiae.
Okay.
Right. So I could see from what was happening that the government were desperately trying to convict these young men, and it would have been a travesty of justice. It would have been a miscarriage of justice. And we know that happens a lot because we have the Guildford 4, the Birmingham 7, the Birmingham 6, the Maguire 7. We know that from the Irish perspective that happened all the time. And people were subsequently, after spending 15, 16 years in jail, they were found to be innocent.
That's right.
One of whom has just died, actually.
Yeah, Jerry Conlon. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, okay. So I could see what the government were doing. They were trying to pervert the course of justice by withholding all the information, the truth that was on my film, by withholding that from the jury and lying to them. So they were trying to pervert the course of justice, and I was trying to prevent them from perverting the course of justice by sending the evidence to the court. And I thought, well, maybe the judge is just mistaken, and if he sees the film, he will apologize to the jury and he will tell them, there is some doubt. I'm sorry, I misled you. There is some doubt about the 4 original people being guilty. So anyway, that didn't happen. What they did do was that they falsely accused me of doing what they were trying to do. And they accused me of attempting to pervert the course of justice by sending these DVDs to the court, okay? Which is the absolute opposite of the reality. And they got a warrant from Westminster Court, Magistrates Court. Then from that, they went to the European Court and got a European international arrest warrant, which was then sent to the Garda in Dublin, and consequently I was arrested. I fought extradition because I had done absolutely nothing wrong, and I didn't see why they should be able to mess my life about, and plus which they'd murdered all those people on the day of 7/7. You know, there was no reason why they wouldn't want to murder me as well. And so I fought extradition, and anyway, went to the High Court. I lost there, so I appealed to the Supreme Court and went there. Some of your listeners actually probably turned up to that hearing. I know Kevin was there.
You must have been shocked to think all I did was send them a DVD, and then all of a sudden this is happening.
Well, I wasn't, because when I actually stuck the DVDs in the mailbox, before I stuck them in the mailbox, I thought, these people are so evil that there is a 50-50 chance, at least 50-50, that they will come after me. So it was a shock, and it wasn't.
Okay.
It was, let's say it was a big disappointment to see how corrupt the court system is. I know how corrupt the government is and their secret services, but to see that the courts are equally corrupt, was a very sad moment.
Okay.
And so anyway, during the time that I was fighting extradition, when I went to the High Court, I was put in. I'm just trying to get this right. When I went to, I was taken to Dublin for a hearing, and it's such a long time ago now. I'm trying to remember. I know I spent.
Just give us a synopsis.
Well, anyway, I was put in Clover Hill Prison, remand prison, until I could get bail. And then the bail conditions were that I had to sign at the Garda station, the local station, who are now, a lot of the Garda here are friends of mine because they've all seen the film and they know what happened and they know that I was in the right. But I had to sign at the Garda station 3 times a week. So it was virtual semi-house arrest. I mean, I could go around Kells and whatever, but I had to be here and sign 3 times a week. And then when I went to the High Court, I was then, they ordered me to be extradited, and I went to Clover Hill again to the prison until I could get bail. I could appeal and get bail. And then after the Supreme Court hearing, I was taken into custody again, and from there I was then taken to the docks in Dublin and taken on to the Ulysses and handed over to 3 special branch SO15 officers from the UK, and they took me to London and to I'm trying to remember the name of the cells of the prison of the police station, Belgrade, Belgravia, sorry. And then from there, the next morning, I spent the night in the cells, and then from the next morning, I was taken to Westminster Magistrates Court, and there they remanded me in custody to Wandsworth Prison. During the time that I was in Wandsworth Prison, my solicitor applied for bail for me, and I was supposed to be taken on 4 occasions. I was scheduled and supposed to be taken to court at Southwark in order to apply for bail. And on 4 occasions, they didn't take me. The first time I'd got everything ready. I was up early in the morning and got ready to go to court, and nobody came to get me. And so at 12 o'clock, when they opened the door for us to go to get food, I went on the landing to see one of the officers, and I said, "What happened?" I said, "I was supposed to go to court this morning, and I got ready and everything, and then you didn't come and get me. What's happening?" So he said, "Well, you're not on the list." I said, "I have to be on the list. My solicitor told me that I was due to go to court." So anyway, I found out subsequently from my solicitor that the prosecution had told the judge that I wasn't in prison, that I was out on bail, and that I hadn't turned up. And of course, if that had been true, then they would have been out looking for me because I would have jumped bail. But it wasn't true. I was in prison. This happened another 3 times, okay, until eventually there was a nice judge, and he said, "Where's Mr. Hill?" And again, they said, "Oh, he's out on bail and he's not turned up." And my solicitor said, "That isn't true, Your Honour. He's in Wandsworth." Right? So anyway, he said, "Well, I want Mr. Hill here tomorrow morning without fail, or there'll be trouble." Okay? And so eventually, the next morning, I was taken, and this nice judge did give me bail. But the reason that they didn't take me for bail on 4 previous occasions was because Lady Injustice Hallett was running the inquiry into 7/7 and the failure of the security services to prevent the bombings. All right. So they absolutely were terrified that I would turn up at that inquiry with copies of my film and be able to speak to family members of the deceased and the injured and tell them the truth of what really happened. So they broke their own rules. I was scheduled to go to court 4 times. They didn't take me. And then eventually the judge got angry and said, "I want him here in the morning without fail." And they took me. But when they took me to court that day, they'd won because the inquiry had finished 2 days before.
Okay.
So I didn't get to go to the inquiry, and that was why they kept me in, and that's why 4 times I was scheduled to go and they didn't take me. Now, the first time I was supposed to go, they said they couldn't. No, was it the first or anyway? One of the times they said they couldn't find me. They told the judge they couldn't find me in their prison, which is ludicrous, because all the cells are numbered. They have it all computerized. They know exactly where everybody is, and on the outside of the cell, on the wall next to the door, is a sheet that tells you who's in that cell with their names and their prison numbers. Okay, so for them to say that they couldn't find me is absolutely ludicrous and a lie. All right, but they had to tell the judge something. So the very next morning at 8 a.m., the cell door opened and they took me for what they said was a random drugs test. Okay. Now, the day before, when they were scheduled to take me to court, they couldn't find me. But the very next morning, they could find me to take me for what they said was a random drugs test. So that just shows you that they were lying, that they knew exactly where I was.
Yeah.
And anyway, I got bail, and then I was a follower of mine agreed to put me up in near Coventry. And so I was given similar bail restrictions. I had to sign on at the local police station 3 times a week. I had a doorstep condition, whereas I had to be in the house from 10 o'clock in the evening until I think it was 7 in the morning. And that the police could come at any time, knock on the door, and I would have to present myself on the doorstep to prove that I was there. So it was even more draconian than what I had in Ireland.
That's terrible. Okay.
Yeah. And then eventually, of course, I went to court. I challenged the jurisdiction and the sovereignty of the Crown and the court. And I have a challenge document on this. The website is jfordjustice.net. And then if you //challenge, there is a document there that's absolutely bulletproof that proves that Elizabeth is fraudulent on the throne, that she was never lawfully crowned in the first place, that she's broken her coronation oath at that time 3,401 times. And so, having broken her oath, that would mean that under contract law that she was no longer the monarch with immediate effect the very first time she did that, which was very shortly after this fraudulent coronation. And anyway, I asked for the judge to let the challenge be heard by a jury, an independent jury, and he repeatedly refused. I kept asking him. I said, it has to go before a jury. I said, you cannot decide this because you cannot be impartial. There's a legal maxim that says that no man can judge in his own cause or in a cause to which he is a party. And as he works for the Crown, he is a party to that challenge. So he cannot, under the maxim, he cannot hear and decide on that case. But he refused to let it go to a jury, and he decided himself, and he ignored all of the evidence that was in the challenge document. Because he had to ignore it because it's absolutely irrefutable. There is nobody on earth could argue against it and win.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely bulletproof. And so anyway, then the next day my trial started, and they showed the jury my film, and they watched the whole film, and then I asked them to back up the film to the point where Jane Stanley of the BBC is in New York, and she is standing in front of some glass windows. I think your listeners probably are aware of the scene I'm going to talk about, is where she says that the Salomon Brothers building, World Trade Center building number 7, has collapsed, and you can still see it standing over her left shoulder.
That's right, yeah.
It didn't come down for another 25 minutes. So I backed my film up, because that was in the film. I backed it up to explain to the jury that they cannot trust the BBC. In my film, I'd shown that the BBC in 2004 had shown a program, London Under Attack, which had virtually the same scenario as what happened on 7/7/2005. And so I explained to the jury, you cannot trust the BBC. How did they know at least 25 minutes in advance that building was going to come down? It wasn't hit by an aeroplane, and all the rest of it. And I explained that, I had to do what I did because those 3 young men could not possibly be guilty of helping 4 other people to do something that those 4 other people never did in the first place. It's impossible. And so I said that, the government were desperate because of my film. They were trying to convict these. They were desperate to convict them because they put them on trial twice. The first trial, the jury couldn't reach a verdict, at which point they should have released them, but they didn't. And they kept them in prison for 2 years, put them under another trial, and eventually they were found unanimously not guilty. Excuse me.
Okay, well, just John, if we can speed up a little bit, because I'm just cautious of time. There's a lot of other things we need to talk about. So if we can just finish up this and then...
Anyway, I was found not guilty. I explained to the jury about the film and about not trusting the government or the BBC, that they should not, that the BBC is a propaganda organ of the government and it tells people lies all the time. So they believed me and disbelieved the government, and they found me not guilty.
Yeah, well, that's it. And then basically, they're supposed to help you ship everything back up to Ireland, and I think you said that they just said, well, go ahead and get on with it. We're not going to help you.
What they did was that the sergeant who took me from, on the Ulysses from Dublin, said to me, I'm sorry, it ruined my life for 2 years, 3 months and 2 days, 157 days in custody in prison, and he said, I'm sorry, when he should have known that what I did was perfectly lawful. And I'm sure that he did know that what I'd done was perfectly lawful, and that they did this to try and make an example of me and to shut me up, because they would have loved to have got a conviction, locked me away, and then they could have forgotten about their worst nightmare, my film and me doing interviews and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to make arrangements now to give you back all your equipment, computers and DVD burners and my printer and all this stuff and other stuff they took from the flat when they came and arrested me. And I said, you have to take me and my stuff back to Ireland, where you got us from, where you got me from, and my equipment. So he said, oh no, I don't have to do that. I can just give it you here. I said, no, you can't. And my solicitor was standing at the side of me. And I said, under the European Extradition Act of 2003, it states quite clearly that you have to return me and my equipment to Ireland. So he said, and then he went red-faced. And, well, we'll have to make some arrangements. So anyway, it took them about 5 months to eventually return my stuff. Okay. And some of it was damaged, and then they refused to compensate me and all this. They're just absolutely despicable people. They have no sense of honour whatsoever.
Well, they have no morals. Okay, let's move on. So now that was kind of, obviously when we were talking to you, we referred to you as John Anthony Hill, but now you're Muad'Dib and known as Muad'Dib or Jah.
Well, I was known as Muad'Dib when I made the film.
Okay.
Because I wanted it to be accepted by the Muslim world, who were being falsely accused.
Okay.
And the name Muad'Dib is Arabic, and it means the teacher of righteousness.
Okay.
Right? So I put the film out as Muad'Dib, the teacher of righteousness, so that it would not be, it would not be rejected instantly by the Muslims and the Muslim world, because it was by somebody with an English name.
Yeah.
And then people have called me that ever since, because they said, well, I don't know if you know that there's a character called Muad'Dib in the film Dune.
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, people said to me, well, you actually have become Muad'Dib by doing what I did, standing up for what was right.
Okay.
And, so I've been known by that for quite some time, and I've been known as Jar a lot longer than that, right back from 1986 when I wrote the book.
Now, for the people who have got down the book, or they're going to download the book and read it, I just want to let them know that you're not a fan of organised religion.
No,
so when they start reading the book, they might get the impression that, this is very kind of religious, but it's actually not really religious, and you don't really have time for organised religion. Do you want to tell us why?
Well, organised religions have killed more people throughout the history of the world than everything else put together. And right now, as your listeners will be fully aware, it's killing people all over the planet. And not just between different religions, but even between different sects of different religions, like the Shiite and the Sunnis are fighting in Iraq, and the Sunnis of Saudi Arabia are the enemies of the Shiite Iranians. And so it's ludicrous to believe that it belongs to God. It doesn't. But what people make the mistake of is that the actual word religion, which is I explained to you when we were having that coffee, although I was having tea, is that the word religion means a bonded obligation to the ruler of the universe, or as you know, people have different names for him. Some people call him God, some people call him Allah, some people call him
Source, Creator, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
You know, he's the ruler of the universe. None of the religions, not one of the organized religions on this planet belong to him. They all belong to Satan and are used to deceive people, keep them fighting, and divide and conquer, and keep them away from ever having a personal relationship with the ruler of the universe.
Now, in your book, I have to make the statement that when people talk about hell, and you do say in it, well, are we not living in it at the moment? Well, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, if you see what's going on in the world with the amount of, you know, the pedophiles out there, what the pharmaceutical companies are doing, what the governments are doing, what the banks are doing, the suicides that are going on, the health issues, I mean, we are in hell. And,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I wouldn't, you know, and I think our listeners would agree with the fact the way the world is at the moment.
I think anybody that's half awake and aware would recognize that we are in hell. And looking not just at what's happening today, but if you look at the history of this planet, it's terrible. There's been nothing but wars from the beginning, and even more so now. And I've lost the track of what.
Well, your talk when we were talking, did you?
Yeah. I was going to say, that what people, you know, in the media and all of that try to say, you know, is that all of this that's happening, that the Earth, you know, and the people on the Earth are all good people, and it's a good planet, you know, and that all of this that's happening now and has been happening throughout history is normal. You know, I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous. How can it be normal? How can this be, you know, anywhere other than hell when you look at what's happening and what's been happening for the last 6,000 years?
Yeah.
No, this absolutely is hell. There's just not. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
And the two things that
what people get mistaken about is they look around and say, "Well, there's no fire." You know, the fire comes at the end. It talks in the scriptures. It talks about the reaping of the harvest, the reaping, and that the good seed will be gathered and kept safe, and that the tares or the weeds or you know the evil people will be bundled and cast into the fire.
Now, when we're talking about the scriptures, I mean, there's been a lot of prophecies and prophets through history, and a prophecy is something that's going to happen if we don't change our way. And I know that we had Ian Crane on, and he was saying that when he went over to he came across, I don't know I'm not too sure what tribe it was. I think we talked about this, where they said that after 25 generations they came down from the mountains, because originally the tribe was, they were attacked by the conquistadors, and they went up to the mountains to get away 16,000 feet up the mountains, and after 25 generations they came down to give mankind a warning that 90% of the people on the planet have to leave because they're not in balance with the planet. And this is what they told Ian. And we've heard these prophecies from the Maoris, the Hopi Indians, the I Ching, and all these ancient tribes and prophecies. I mean, people like Nostradamus, Jane Dixon, Mother Shipton, they all talk about things that are going on and prophesy certain things if we don't change our way. And so when you refer to the scriptures, basically, I take it that's what you're referring to as well.
Yeah, well, as I explained to you, and I'll explain to the listeners, most people are blissfully unaware that at least 2/3 of the Bible is prophecy. 2/3 of it, okay? The other third is the law, the statutes, the judgments, economic policy, agricultural policy, healthy diet, everything that you need to run a country properly, to run a society properly, fairly and justly. Okay, but the other 2/3 are prophecies. There were 24 prophets in Israel before the time of Jesus. And they prophesied covering thousands of years into the future. And 99.9% of those prophecies have been fulfilled, if you relate them to history, have been fulfilled in exact and minute detail.
And
99.9% of them.
Is that because they've been prophesized, man didn't change, and so the prophecy came through?
Exactly that, yes.
Okay.
There's always two paths, okay? And the prophet is sent to warn people to return to the correct path, which is to go back to God's law.
Well, 99.9 is a bloody good figure to be accurate. Yeah. I mean, you can't get better than that, really. If you said 50%, then but 99.9 is pretty spot on.
Yeah, and also the fact that there's only 0.1% left tells us that we're right at the end. And anybody, looking at history, looking at the prophecies, and seeing that 99.9% of it has been fulfilled in exact and minute detail, only an idiot would think that the last 0.1% will not also be fulfilled in exact and minute detail. And it's actually happening as we are talking now in the Middle East.
Okay, and there's a lot going on over there.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about what the prophecies are saying regarding? Because there's people who turn around and say, well, there's apparently this dwarf planet called Nibiru coming in, and other people will say other things, but you're pretty focused. We were talking to each other. You're pretty focused on what was going over in the Middle East, in the Ukraine and Russia and China. And do you want to give us what you feel, what you've read, what the prophecies are dictating, and what they're saying is going to happen in that area now? Because that's the hotbed at the moment globally.
Yeah. Okay. In the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the Bible, it talks about 7 time periods. Well, it talks about 7 angels with 7 trumpets. And as I explained to you, the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets are 7 time periods. Like in a boxing match, you have a sound, you have a bell that divides up the time periods. It tells you when the round ends, when the next round is going to begin. And that's what the trumpets signify. When the trumpet blows, it's the beginning of the next time period. There are 7 time periods, and the last 3 of the 7, which is the 5th, 6th, and 7th time periods, are referred to as the 3 last woes to come upon the earth. The 5th woe time period was the invasion of Kuwait in prophecy in Revelation chapter 9. If your listeners have got a piece of paper and a pen, they could write down that at the time in 1991 when it was happening, I wrote a booklet explaining the 5th woe, the invasion of Kuwait in prophecy in Revelation chapter 9. I explained it in minute detail, exactly what John the Apostle was shown on the island of Patmos in the 1st century. And of course, the things that he was shown, which were going to be 2,000 years in the future, did not exist in his day. So he had to describe them in terms that the people of his day would be able to relate to. So he described things. He talked about the locusts flying with crowns on their heads and stings in their tails, and out of their mouths came fire, and he said, but they were like horses prepared unto battle. Now a horse in his day prepared unto battle would have armor on it to protect it, because if somebody's riding at you to attack you and you're on a horse, the easiest way to stop them is to kill the horse. So anyway, I explained all of that the locusts with the crown on their head and the stings in their tails were helicopter gunships. And he talks about the smoke that came out of the pit, and that the sun was darkened, the sun and the air were darkened. Well, if anybody remembers the news footage from 1991, they will remember that Saddam, or at least they said it was Saddam. There are other people that say it was the American Special Forces, but the mainstream media said it was Saddam, set fire to 1,000 oil wells in Kuwait. And the sky was totally black at midday. It was pitch black. and then out of the smoke, because that's when the helicopters came in. Once the oil wells were set on fire, that's when the helicopters came out of the smoke and started firing at people. And of course, fire was coming out of them because they have the missiles, but in the nose of the Cobra and Apache gunships, they have a Gatling gun. And also in the A-10 Warthogs, which are tank killer planes, they also have a Gatling gun in the nose. And so fire was coming out of their mouths. And it said that they had teeth like lions. And of course, on some of the helicopters, they painted teeth, mouths at the front and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all explained in minute detail it's a web page. I made it originally as a booklet, but now it's a web page. And if they go to jartruth.net/the Eye of K, THEIOFK, the Eye of K, which stands for short version, the invasion of Kuwait, they can see all of that. Most people back then, when I showed it to them, they would stand and their jaws would drop, and they would just. They said, "How do you know all of this?" Wow, and they could see it was obvious that what I'd shown them was exactly what it said in the Book of Revelation. And anyway, that's the 5th time period. It also goes on to say that they did not repent of their evil and that they gnawed their tongues for pain. Well, the oil in that region of the world is very heavily laden with sulfur, and it's called heavy crude, whereas Brent crude is light crude up in the North Sea, which doesn't have the sulfur content that the oil in the Middle East has. And of course, once the oil fires were set on fire, you would have that in the air, and then in that climate, they would, with the heat, their bodies would be sweaty, perspiring. And also when inside your body, your lungs, it is all moist. And so the sulfur, when breathed in or going onto the person's skin, would turn into sulfuric acid. And they gnawed their tongues for pain because of that. They were all having respiratory problems at the time and stuff, which came out in the initial stages of the reporting, but then it got censored and all of what happens. I explained about 7/7. You have to get the initial reports that the reporters are putting out before it gets censored.
Okay, so what's 6 and 7?
Well, the 6th time period, it talks about the 6th time period where it says that the 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates are set loose to gather all the nations of the earth to the battle of Armageddon. Now, the 4 angels that are bound in the river Euphrates are the 4 countries that the river Euphrates runs through. It starts in the mountains in the southeast of Turkey. It then runs through Turkey and into Iraq, into Syria, and then it runs through Syria and then runs through Iraq. And then it ends up as the Shatt al-Arab waterway, which is the border between Iraq and Iran. And then it runs into the north of the Persian Gulf. So we have Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, the 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. And it says they will be let loose to gather all the nations of the earth to the battle of Armageddon. Okay, and then it goes on later on in Revelations, it goes on to talking about the 6th time period. It says that the waters of the Euphrates are dried up, that the ways of the kings of the east might be prepared. Okay, so it doesn't mean the H2O water of the river Euphrates, although the Turks have built a dam and they are stopping some of the flow, which is really upsetting Syria and Iraq. But that's not what it means. It explains in the prophecies within the Bible, which, as I've said, 2/3 of it are prophecy. And it has nothing to do with organized religions. Unfortunately, people reject the Bible. They throw the baby out with the bathwater. The organized religions they should avoid like the plague, but don't avoid the Bible. The people who are listening and looking for the truth seekers, people who will be listening to this program, say that they are truth seekers and they're looking for the truth. Now, the only truth that you're going to find on this planet is in the Bible, because all the rest, the history books and the mainstream media, is all lies and propaganda. And you already know that. The only thing you can be sure of is the scriptures that were sent by the ruler of the universe telling us how to survive what's going to happen, how to take the proper path instead of the wrong path, and what's going to happen if we go down one path or the other path. And if at any point we decide to take the right path, then things will sort themselves out. If we continue on the wrong path, which we have done for 6,000 years, then we will end up at Armageddon. Okay, which is where we're headed right now.
And do you think this is quite soon? I mean, assuming that we don't change. Do you think
absolutely. Well, they're planning it right. I mean, they're working towards it right now. Right. If you watch what's happening in the Middle East, preferably from the alternative media, but some of the footage and filming and things comes from mainstream media, and you have to balance, how much of it is true and how much of it is propaganda. But please, don't associate the Bible with organized religion, because the two things are totally separate. The organized religions do the opposite of what the book says.
And what do you say to people who say, well, they've heard that the Piso family wrote part of the Bible and some parts were written 200 years after, and there's parts of the Bible that are in the Vatican that won't be released because it goes against the actual dogma, and other people saying that I think the Council of Nicaea, where all the Christian religions got together and agreed on one guidebook, which is the Bible. I mean, is the Bible more like a guidebook as opposed to? I mean, are you taking the Bible literally, or are you just saying, look, it's just a guidebook for life?
Both. Both. Some people say that the Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Bible. Okay. It contains the law. As I explained to you the other day, there's 5 books that were given to Moses at Sinai, and they contain the law, the statutes, the judgments, economic policy under which there are no filthy rich and no poor people, agricultural policy, and whereby you don't use chemicals or GMO crops and pesticides and all of that, and the diet of what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat because it'll make your body sick. Okay, and you said to me the other day, you weren't aware that there was any of that in the Bible.
Yeah.
All you knew about, which is what most people, including the people listening, most people on the planet are only aware of the 2 tablets of stone with the 10 commandments.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, because they don't want you to know about the law, because they want you to serve their legislation, and their legislation is unlawful. It's fraudulent. Yeah. Because the law that was given to Moses for the whole world prohibits men from legislating, because the ruler of the universe knew that if people allowed other people to legislate, they would legislate for their benefit to make themselves rich at everybody else's expense, and that's exactly what's happened in spades.
And well, look what's happening in Ireland. All these legislations are coming in, the property tax, the water meters, you're going to have sewage tax. All these are just legislation which man is doing, the government is doing, they're supposed to represent us.
Yeah, and it's fraudulent because they have no authority to legislate. Okay? It says in the Bible and in the Irish Constitution, it says that, God is above everything and everything should be returned to him and he will be the final arbiter. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, he prohibited them and everybody else on the planet from legislating. So all the legislation on the planet is fraudulent. Okay. Now, that's why they don't want people to read the Bible. And they've said, oh, it's a religious book, and oh, it's ancient, and it's made up of all these fairy stories and all. It's all lies. The Bible gives you the law. It's known as the perfect royal law of liberty. Liberty. Because provided you keep his laws, and the laws, the principles upon which the law is based are the Ten Commandments.
Right, which Bible?
If everybody kept the Ten Commandments, there'd be no problems on the planet.
I agree.
But because people don't, then there is the law and the statutes and the judgments in the Bible that God says this is how the ruler of the universe, sorry for using the word God, the ruler of the universe said if people break the commandments, if they break the laws, these are the judgments. This is what you must do to punish them as a deterrent for them breaking the law. Because we don't want people murdering, we don't want people raping, we don't want people committing adultery, we don't want people stealing, we don't want people coveting each other. Everybody, if you live by this law, everybody will have enough. There will be no poverty, so there will be no reason for crime. Okay? But people have been deceived into thinking that it's some kind of religious book when it was actually sent by the ruler of the universe. And it's basic instructions before leaving Earth. It's how to go back home to heaven. There would be no point in striving here to go to heaven if it wasn't where you came from in the first place.
So which Bible?
Your bodies, I mean the being part of the human.
So which Bible, John? Because which Bible would you recommend? Because there's quite a few out there.
Mine, the King of Kings Bible.
King of Kings Bible.
Yeah, and you can see that at jartruth.net/KOFKAD.htm.
Okay.
And it's online. You can either get it on a CD or which interacts in your computer, or there is a free section where you can read it online.
Okay. We're going to
put together. I have put in the parts of the Bible that they don't want you to read because they want to dumb you down. They want to control you. They don't want you to understand. So they took out certain parts. They took out the books of wisdom. All right. Now, why would they possibly remove the books of wisdom from the Bible unless they wanted to dumb people down? There can be no reason for taking the books of wisdom down except if you don't want people to be wise. You want them to be stupid.
Well, we know that's kind of their approach regarding education. You know,
the public fool system.
Ignorance, that's what they want. Okay, John, listen, we're going to go over to a quick fire round of questions because we have a few questions that's come in, and I'm just keeping an eye on the time as well.
You asked me about, I haven't finished yet. You asked me about the sixth time period.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
All right. So it says that the four angels that bound in the great river are going to be set loose to gather all the nations of the world to the Battle of Armageddon. And it's Turkey, Syria, Iraq and Iran. You can see what's happening at the moment in the Middle East. All right? And for I don't know how many years, but at least I would say 7 or 8 years, America has been threatening to attack Iran. Okay? And Iran and Syria are allies. They have a joint defense pact. So if they were to attack Iran, from, say, for instance, from aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and from Qatar, which is where they have a massive airbase, if they were to attack Iran from there, Syria would be behind them. So they would be caught between Syria and Iran. They would be attacked from both sides. So what they want to do is they want to take out Syria and neutralize it so that then they can attack Iran. Another reason that they're fighting to get rid of Bashir al-Assad, is because the Saudis, who are Sunni Muslims, and the Qataris want to build a pipeline from their oil and gas fields to the Mediterranean. and they want the pipeline or pipelines, because there'll be two separate. Obviously, there'll be separate ones for gas and for oil. They want to build them to the Mediterranean, and they want to build them through Syria. Okay, because if you're listening, I was going to say viewers for a moment. If your listeners are familiar with the geography of the region, the Persian Gulf, at the bottom end, there is Oman opposite Iran, and there is the Strait of Hormuz, which is a very narrow channel, which is the entrance and exit to the Persian Gulf. Now, 40% of the world's oil and gas comes through the Strait of Hormuz. It comes from Saudi Arabia and the Gulf oil states, including Kuwait. It comes in tankers and it comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran has threatened repeatedly that if they are attacked, that they would close the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so they would cut off 40% of the world's oil and gas supplies, which would create absolute havoc. I mean, it would crash the world economy. It would absolutely destroy the first world, because we rely on oil for cars and petrol, diesel, cooking, all kinds of stuff. So before America can attack Iran, they've got to find another way of getting the oil from the Persian Gulf to the west. Okay? So what they want to do, and the Saudis and the Qataris are funding it, they want to build these pipelines from Saudi and from Qatar through Syria to the Mediterranean, and build a port there where the tankers can then come and fill up with oil and gas, and they don't have to go through the Strait of Hormuz that Iran has threatened to close. So they can then stick fingers up at Iran and say, do what you like, close it if you want. We can get our products out to the Mediterranean now. We don't need to go through the Strait of Hormuz, at which point America can then attack Iran and they can close the straits if they want, and it won't destroy the world economy, including America's economy. And in order to fight any wars, they need the oil for the aeroplanes and for the ships and for the tanks and for the helicopters and all of that. If suddenly 40% of the world's oil is cut off, then these aeroplanes don't fly without fuel. The tanks don't go without fuel. The helicopters don't go. Some of the submarines are still oil fired, run by diesel. So Iran would be in a very strong position. And so that's why they're trying to take out Assad and put in a puppet so that they can build those pipelines, they can export their oil and gas to the Mediterranean, and then America can attack Iran, which it's been wanting to do for, at least 8 years, if not since 1979, when, they took the American hostages in the embassy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what their plan is. Now, it says in the prophecies that the waters of the Euphrates will dry up. Well, in the Bible, in the prophecies, they're written in code because they're not meant to be understood by the people of the day when they were written, and they're not meant to be understood by the people subsequent to that, because if the powers that be, if they could understand the prophecies, they would have destroyed the Bible, and you wouldn't have a copy today. So they were written in code so that they wouldn't understand them in order to protect them. And so they would come down to today where, somebody will come along who does understand them, like yours truly, and be able to interpret them and tell the people and warn the people of what is going to happen. But anyway, it says that the waters are going to dry up. That is a code word. The word waters, it's not referring to the water in the river. It tells you that the waters are peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. Tongues is languages. Okay? And also the water of the river before we had electricity and internal combustion engines, etc. The river was the power of the nation because they used to have mills to grind the corn and other things and to operate machinery. The water wheels, which we have in Ireland, as you know, you've probably seen. There's one in Navan. It doesn't work anymore, but there's one in Navan. And also to transport their goods. They would have barges and things, and they would have a tow track at the side with horses, and they would tow their goods along the rivers. They thought, obviously, if they were going with the flow of the river, then, you know, they wouldn't need the horses. But to go the opposite way, they need the horses. So the river is a symbolism of the power of the people, of the multitudes, nations, multitudes, languages, and all of that. That is going to dry up. In other words, that those four nations, their power is going to diminish and dry up. And then it says that the way of the kings of the east will be prepared. Now, the kings of the east are the Eastern Bloc, the Russians and their satellite states, which originally formed the USSR. It's now called the CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States, but it's still basically the USSR, and China. And in the Old Testament, in the book of the prophet Ezekiel, in chapters 38 and 39, it tells you who is going to be taking part in the Battle of Armageddon. Now, Armageddon is not some mythical place or name. The word Armageddon is the anglicized version of Har, H-A-R, Megiddo. H-A-R, Har means the mountains of, and Megiddo is a place in northern Israel. It is on the southwestern side of the valley of Jezreel in Israel, northern Israel, which is where Israel, the real Israel, always fought its battles to prevent nations coming from the north of actually invading the rest of Israel. So it tells you that the Russians are going to come. It says also that the Persians, which is the Iranians, of course, the Libyans, and you know what's happened in Libya, and the Ethiopians. Well, in the maps of that day, in ancient maps, it showed Libya and Ethiopia as being the whole of Africa. So it's basically covering all of Africa. You know what the West has done to Libya and Gaddafi and made it an absolute mess completely, just like they did to Iraq. So anyway, it says that that's where the final battle will be. Now, 20 years ago, to think that the West would be fighting in the Middle East, you know, it was a joke. You know, nobody would have believed you, but look where they are now. And anyway, it says that Britain and America, the two witnesses, this is another booklet that's on jartruth.net/horse, and it explains who the two witnesses and the four horsemen of the apocalypse are. Okay, so that's jartruth.net/horse. And in that, at the beginning of it, I've given the code words and what they mean, so that you can all study that. You can then look into the Bible. You can look at the prophecies, and you can see that you can decode them, and you can see that it's exactly what I'm telling you. If you can't get hold of my Bible, then the King James Authorized Version is the best translation. All the modern translations have been corrupted by you know who.
Okay, well, we've another probably.
But let me just finish because
we have questions, John, and we've limited time. Okay,
right.
So
I've got to tell everybody that the kings of the East are going to defeat Britain, the UK, and America, and all their allies. They're going to defeat them. Okay, that's what it says in the prophecies. They are going to lose, and they are going to become slaves. The ones who are not killed are going to become slaves as a punishment from the ruler of the universe for not living by his law and teaching it to the rest of the world, which is the contract that they made with God at Sinai, the ruler of the universe.
Right. Okay. So obviously, and that includes Ireland as well.
Important, which is why, okay, we're talking about The Way Home or Face the Fire book. Because without that book, without studying it, without continually rereading it and digesting it so that it becomes part of you, you will not survive what is going to happen. It is the survival plan, which is what it says on the front cover. Because Britain and America and her allies, which includes Ireland, are going to lose the war.
Yeah, and
I've been striving for 30 years to prevent the necessity for this war to happen. And people laugh at me, people ignore me, and they do that at their peril because we are headed for the end. And if people don't take me seriously, they don't read that book and apply it to their lives, they will not survive what's coming.
And we can see what's happening over in the Middle East at the moment. I mean, what you're saying is coming to pass. I mean, that we can see it. Go to Russia today. And I know Russia today will have their take on it, but they're the most honest out of all the media stations because they are reporting things that all the other stations are not reporting.
Yes.
Joe, we have a few questions that we're going to have to quick fire them over to you. So we have about 20 minutes to get through the questions. We'll try and get through them all, but we're going to need a one-line answer if possible. It's going to be very difficult, but we'll try and.
It's such a vast subject.
I know we're going. It's vast. I know it's vast. We're going to have to get you on for part 2. But for now, let's see if we can get through a few of the questions.
Only part 2.
Oh well, probably be a part 3 and part 4. You know. I mean,
if like I said to you when we had that cup of tea and coffee, I said that if the listeners take this as seriously as they should. And they accept what it says in the book, that I'm quite prepared to come on a regular basis and help them to survive and teach them.
Excellent. Well, I think definitely we'll be looking at a part 2 or maybe part 3. I mean, when we got together, we spoke for 2.5 hours, and that was only the two of us, and we didn't even get into certain things that we didn't have a chance to talk about.
Well, it always flies when you're having fun.
There you go, yeah. Okay, listen, we're going to go off to the questions anyway. And do your best to see, because we have a few here, and we want to try and get through all the questions. So if you can kind of, give us, I know it's going to be very hard, but kind of give us a quick answer, that would be great. That would be appreciated. Steve?
Okay, I finally get a chance. We do have a fair few questions. I'm going to start off with one of my own. Just in relation to what you speak of about the book, what's in the book, what people need to learn from the book. How long have we got, do you reckon, before the excrement hits the fan?
Nobody knows. It tells you that in the scriptures. It says that nobody, not even Christ, knows the day and the hour. That only the ruler of the universe knows that. So I can't answer. I can tell you that everything is going to happen. Everything that's going to happen is going to happen during the lifetime of this body that I'm using. Okay, I explained this to Alan, and we haven't got time to go into it because you only want a one-line answer.
Yeah.
And now, like I said to Alan, this is a vast subject that a one-line answer really doesn't explain anything.
True.
But in the scriptures, in the prophecies, and this was a prophecy given by Jesus himself, okay, he said that the people who are alive in 1948, that generation, will see all things come to pass.
Okay, so that's interesting.
This body I'm using, that's now 66 years.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you can look at what's happening in the Middle East, and they're hell-bent on doing things as fast as possible.
And John Irwin did say that if they
bring about Armageddon.
Yeah, John Irwin did say, as a super soldier, John Irwin did say that when they shut the Straits of Hormuz, that's it. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, next question.
Okay, some of these questions, they're actually going to backtracking a little bit to when you were speaking about 7/7, so apologies for kind of...
No, that's fine.
Yeah. One of the questions that struck me actually when you were speaking of it. You seem to have a good grasp and a good knowledge of the law when you were speaking of, getting extradited back to Ireland, and they weren't going to send you and your stuff back, and you had to educate them, the stuff that they would have already known. Did you know the law before you kind of went on the 7/7 journey, or was it after when you found yourself incarcerated? Is that when you started studying the law, or did you know before that?
Well, we have to distinguish between the law and legislation.
Legislation.
I'm familiar with the law because the law is in the Bible, in the 5 books that I told you about.
Yeah.
But as far as legislation, it's their legislation. I had to study their legislation because they were using it against me.
Right. So you were learning on the fly, then, so to speak.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Okay. Again, on 7/7, one of the listeners here, John, was wondering, in relation to 7/7 ripple effect, how can you be certain that the information that you perceive to be true is in fact the true, and do you have any qualifications to say that, to back it up?
All of the evidence in the film, and there is now, and has been for a while, and I gave a copy to Alan, there is a 7/7 ripple effect 2, which is a follow-up, it's the same film, the first film, plus another hour and 20 minutes, whereby other evidence since I made the film has come out, and I have included that, and also what happened to me with the trial and all the rest of it. And everything that has come out since has proven that what I said in the first film is true. And it's all factual. It's not my opinion. It's all factual.
Yeah.
So please, everybody, watch 7/7 Ripple Effect 2. You'll find a link to it on jforjustice.net website. Please watch it. Alan's got a copy. If Alan wants to make copies for anybody that wants one, or if you want to let me know, I'll try and get copies to you if you send your address or whatever. To watch that, because that's a real eye-opener. It's a real education as to how they plan these things and how they carry them out, and how they trick people into taking part.
Okay, well, I think that's very nice of you to offer that to people. I wasn't actually aware that there was a ripple effect 2, but I did see the first film, so I will be anxiously looking to have a look at the second one anyway.
Good.
Another question. Do you know what happened to the 4 who did not do the 7/7? The other 4 people?
They were murdered.
Oh.
There were three. Well, this is actually in the film. It was on the news when I told you that on the day I was flipping channels and I was listening to the different news stations. They gave it out on the news that later that morning, about 10:30, that 3 suspected suicide bombers had been shot and neutralized in Canary Wharf.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Well, in this Ripple Effect 2, it appears very likely that Mohammed Siddiqui Khan, who they say was the ringleader because he was the oldest, didn't actually make the trip because his wife was having a miscarriage, and he had to take his wife to the hospital, and it's more than likely that he did not make the journey south, and that they grabbed him in Leeds and got rid of him. But the others were shot, and I'm sure were shot and killed in Canary Wharf. So that's what happened to them. If you watch the film, okay,
yeah,
I said that they were probably recruited to take part in this Peter Powers exercise and to play the part with fake bombs, to play the part of suicide bombers. Okay, but because they couldn't get to London in time, because the 7:40 a.m. train from Luton to Thameslink King's Cross was cancelled that day because they were doing work on the lines in between the two, and there was a backlog. The trains were delayed until they cancelled the 7:40 and the following one. So it was impossible for them to get to London, to Thameslink, to King's Cross in time to catch those tube trains to blow them up, or to pretend to blow them up, because we pretend backpacks. So they weren't actually on the tubes that blew up. And when they did get to King's Cross and they found out that these tubes had already blown up, they smelled a rat. And so they made what I've said is that they made what we're going to do. They made a decision to go to Canary Wharf, which is where Reuters is and the major print media, to try and tell their story to the press in order to try and clear their names, because they realised they'd been set up. And they were shot dead in Canary Wharf. 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I remember seeing that bit in the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's more about Mohammed Siddiqui Khan in The Ripple Effect too.
Okay. Watch out for that. Moving away from 7/7. Mick from Liffey Sound FM is wondering, can you ask Ja about the Leah Fail stone and his belief that it is buried near or on the hill of Tara?
That it's what? It's
buried near or on the hill of Tara.
No, the Leah Fail is not on the... You're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. The Leah Fail is in Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mick got that one
Leah Fail was taken from Tara. Okay. The real Leah Fail is Jacob's pillar stone from the Bible, that he used as his pillow, and he had visions while he was using it. And it became the throne of David. It became the coronation stone. It was brought to Ireland in 583 BC by Queen Teotefi, who married Eochaid, the High King of Tara, and became the Queen of Ireland. And the stone stayed on the inauguration mound at Tara for 1,000 years, and all of their descendants, who became the High Kings, were all crowned on that stone until 500 AD, when the High King of Ireland was called Murdoch, and he had a younger brother called Fergus. Okay. Now, during that ensuing period, a lot of Irish people from the north of Ireland had migrated across to what today is Argyllshire, in western Scotland. So it was called the Dalriada. In Ireland, the north of Ireland was called the Western Dalriada, and in Scotland it was called the Eastern Dalriada, where a lot of the Irish had migrated across to Scotland. And as Fergus was the younger brother of the High King, he couldn't rule in Ireland because his elder brother was the High King. So what he did was he went across to the Eastern Dalriada, to what is today Argyllshire, and he wanted to be the king because he was the prince. He wanted to be the king over the Irish Scots, who had become Scots because they'd gone to live in Scotland. And they wouldn't accept him unless he was crowned on the stone. So he borrowed the stone from his brother at Tara, and he took it to Dunad in what today is Argyllshire, and there he was crowned Fergus Mór Mac Éirce, Fergus the Great, the first king of the Irish Scots. And he never returned the stone to Ireland. He kept it in Scotland, and he built a chapel on the island of Iona, and he put the stone in the chapel on Iona. And Columba from Kells, or Columkill as he's known in Ireland, okay, was teaching Celtic Christianity. And he was following the scriptures as closely as he could understand them, rather than the corruption of the scriptures, which is what the Roman Church was teaching. And he was teaching that the Sabbath was a Saturday, which is the seventh day of the week, which it is, whereas Sunday is the day of sun worship, which is the first day of the week. He was teaching people, as far as he could, he was teaching people to keep the Passover, not Ishtar, Easter, because that's another corruption of the teachings. Ishtar is a Babylonian fertility goddess, and Ishtar became Easter, and that's why you have Easter eggs, Ishtar eggs, because eggs are a sign of fertility.
I think that's gone down part 2. Yeah, I think we'll.
All right. Well, it has absolutely nothing to do with the crucifixion, does it? What do Easter eggs have to do with the crucifixion?
Yeah, true.
Absolutely nothing.
So the Liverpool is in Scotland.
The stone then went from Iona to Dunstafnage in Argyllshire. From there on under Kenneth MacAlpine, who was the first king of the Irish Scots and Picts united, because his dad was from the line of the Irish Scots and his mum was a Pictish princess. So through him they became the nation of the Scots, which they are today. And at that point the stone was moved to Scone Palace. In 1296, Edward Longshanks, Edward I, if you've seen the film Braveheart, he defeated the Scots and he took the stone to Westminster, right? And it was there, and all the English kings were crowned on it up until George VI. And then on the 4 a.m. on the 25th of December of 1950, 4 Scottish nationalists led by Ian Robertson Hamilton, who is now a QC, as we.
You there? Have we lost him?
No.
John, are you there?
No, sorry.
Fake.
Oh, there you are. We lost you there for a minute.
Oh, where did I get to?
Right, you were saying when the chap was a QC.
Right, Ian Robertson Hamilton. Okay, so they took long story short, they took the stone back to Scotland, and they had made originally a copy to practice on. They put that practice stone, the copy, a fake, wrapped it in the Scottish flag, which is a saltire, which is a St Andrew's flag, which is blue with a white diagonal cross. They wrapped it, the fake stone, in that, left it on the high altar stone of Arbroath Abbey, which is where Robert the Bruce and the Scottish nobles signed the Declaration of Scottish Independence in 1320. They notified the authorities, and that stone was taken to London, and Elizabeth was crowned on that fake stone, knowing it was a fake stone, in 1953.
Okay. We have one more question.
That stone, the Learfail, is still being hidden by the Scottish nationalists somewhere in Scotland, and they have said that if they gain independence in this referendum, they will bring out the real stone. And I have that from them through private channels.
Excellent stuff.
Okay.
All right.
But your person's question is about the Ark of the Covenant, presumably, because that is underneath. It's in a souterrain, which means underground, souterrain, okay, a chamber underneath the Mound of the Hostages at Tara.
So it is still there.
Is it still there? Yes.
No, so it is still there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's grand. That's all Mick was wondering.
Okay, one more question and that's it. Now we have to wrap things up.
Okay.
Oh, so we're definitely going to have a part
Well,
two.
this is it. Unfortunately, we are up against the clock, Jar. You know, we are under the clock, so this is why we have to go do what we do. You know,
right.
But there is a part 2. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. There are 2 questions. You say we can only go for one.
Well, if Jar can answer them quickly.
Okay. Well, I'll ask Mick's question. Mick was wondering, can you ask Jar his thoughts on the latest CIA creation, ISIS, and its esoteric symbol linked to the ancient religions?
Oh, well, I hadn't looked at that aspect of it because ISIS, obviously that's esoteric. It's from ancient religions, but I don't know whether they purposefully chose that abbreviation because ISIS is an abbreviation. It's not, as in Isis, the name of the goddess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an abbreviation. Okay, next question.
Okay. Yeah. And Chris was wondering, could you ask his opinion on the work of John Lamb Lash and the Gnostics, the Bible, which is he said the Bible largely skips them.
I've never heard of the chap, but I can tell you that I have placed one of the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas, Doubting Thomas. I have replaced it in the New Testament.
Okay. Right.
And also the 29th chapter of the Acts of the Apostles, because in every Bible that you'll find, it only has 28 chapters. But the 29th chapter explains that Paul, the Apostle, came to London, all right, and he preached on Ludgate Hill, and Ludgate Hill is where they built St. Paul's Cathedral.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, listen, Joe, I'm sorry we've reached that time. We have to because there's a few things that we have to finish up with the show. But I definitely think there's part 2 in the making. I definitely, because there's stuff that we haven't even touched base on that we have to talk about.
It's such a vast subject. But what I would ask people, please read the book, download it, read the book, so that when I come on for part 2, then we can get into all of the prophecy, all of these things, but we can get into the book as well.
Well, listen, I totally agree. I recommend people either buy a copy of the book or they actually download it and read it as a PDF, because it's definitely, you have to approach it with a very open mind. But if you do that, then you know it's quite an interesting conversational piece. And as I say, the stuff that we haven't even talked about that we need to do in part 2. Oh wait, very quickly, because we're looking at the time here. Jar, give us your websites again very quickly.
JarTruth.net. That's JAHTRUTH.net.
Brilliant.
And the other one is J4FOR, not a number 4. J4Justice.net.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll go to a piece of music. And we'll be. Thanks again for coming on, much appreciated. But we are up against the clock.
Thanks very much for having me, and I hope that the people who are listening have enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Just stay with us.
I hope they want more.
Yeah, no, we'll do it. We'll definitely do a part 2. Just stay with us there for a minute, Joe. We just go to a bit of music. We'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
And we're back. That's not our usual taste of music, I know. That's a track that was sent in to us. Do you want me to explain it, or do you want to?
You go ahead.
Okay, that was actually sent in to us. The track is called Just Be Yourself. I know we only played half the track there, so we will play it again at a later stage. It's the first track off the Love Energy album. That's a pre-release. It's going to be released on the 1st of September in this year. And this particular track has been transposed, yes, into one of the solfeggio frequencies. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Solfeggio frequencies.
Yeah,
I'm not a musician. I don't understand these things. Which is 174 hertz, 174 hertz, and this vibration tone can be felt at the feet area of that's your chakra, your feet chakra, which increases safety and security within the body's energy system. The Love Energy album the whole Love Energy album has been transposed in the solfeggio frequencies, and that's 9 in total. And the composer, I don't know, was she the lady singing as well? Elise G. Rogers.
Right. Energy vocalist
and inspiring singer-songwriter. Yeah, and Elise Rogers. Okay.
So we're going to get more songs from Elise, and we're going to see what they like. But that was just a little taster, and we'll play a full version. Again, we're always up against the clock, as you know, so we have to kind of finish up. We've got just a couple of announcements. Coming up after us, Vin's away on his wedding anniversary. So basically, we have Sean, who's going to be interviewing Kerry Cassidy on Vin's segment of the show for 2 hours. So tune into that at 9 o'clock. Next week, we're going to have Jim Mars on. Now, Jim Mars is, the guy has been involved in this area for so many years. I mean, he's just an old hat, of what's going on. And basically,
Jim, he's just an old hat. I hope he's not listening.
He's an expert. He's an expert in this stuff. He's an old hat at this game. That's what I meant to say. And basically, Jim has been on the show before, so we're going to get an update from Jim, find out what's been going on. Maybe he knows what's going on in the Middle East as well, and just kind of confirm everything what Ijal was talking about as well. That's really what the plan of attack is for next week. If there's any information that you come across on stuff that we said earlier about the Sylph, by all means, give us a shout and let us know. Or there's any links or anything like that, give us a shout. Don't forget, T-shirts are available. The summer's coming and look really good. Well, if it's not coming, it's hopefully here. It's nice and warm. You look great in a T-shirt. And so to help support us, to help support OYM, pop along to our little shop and get a T-shirt there. Or maybe you want to buy a book or something like that, or a CD or something like that. It's just all part of supporting OYM and what we do.
And as a little teaser, as Alan said, you didn't actually mention that, what you were just saying to Jordan, the musical breaks. I don't know if that's can you mention that
about
the video?
Oh, well, what we're going to try and do, we just asked Joe if we could actually put the Ripple Effect 2 up on YouTube, and and he said that would be okay, so we're going to see what we can do and maybe get it up there, but if not, we can make it like a downloadable MP4 or something like that, and people can download it off the website, maybe do something like that. It might be a good thing.
Yeah, so that's going to be cool. So that's kind of a little teaser. So I mean, yeah, get your OYM T-shirt as well. They do look great. They look fantastic. They keep you nice and cool during those hot summer days. They reflect the sun and they attract women. I've heard.
Yeah, brilliantly.
I've heard that said they
very
do attract.
Successful. Yeah, very.
And, well, actually, depending on your preference, they attract whatever you want.
Whatever you fancy. We're not fussy. Okay, so basically Sean's up next with Kerry Cassidy. As we say, if there's any information, give us a shout, let us know. If you come across anything, I'm just trying to think, there's something else on the back of my mind I'm thinking of. Next week we have Jim Mars. Don't forget to get the copy of Jar's book. The website is thewayhome or facethefire.net. It's keep an open mind to it. That's all I'll say. Just keep an open mind to it, because there is a few things out there that in the book that might be on, be having to think about and go, oh, I don't agree with that. But keep an open mind to it, because we are on a journey of discovery at the moment. Yeah,
actually, Chris mentioned earlier in the chat that Chris is also reading a copy of the book, so maybe at some point in time Chris may even give us a ring or drop us an email just to let us know if you have any questions or what your thoughts are on the book. That'll be interesting.
And Agent says, are the T-shirts unisex? Yes, of course they are. No problem at all. You can pop along. It doesn't male, female, whatever. There's no problem. You can pop along and support OYM. Okay, we hit that time. We're going to pass off to Sean and Kerry Cassidy. Have a good one. Stay safe. Take it easy. This is Alan James, and have a good week. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, and for myself, Stephen George, we'll do it all again next week. Take care, and stay tuned for Sean. Good night.
Yeah.